So is there, just the minutes were issued for the last meeting. Is there any observations or anything on the draft minutes that were issued? Okay, and are there any declarations of interest for this meeting? Okay, we've got apologies from Thomas Reaney from North Ayrshire Council, Louise Riddoch, and Jan Wilkie and Scott. Um, so that's apologies we've got. Kick off with the AGM chairperson's report, which Alec produced, which will be issued with the minutes. So her report for 2025 said, the overall approach continued committed to being transparent, democratic, and inclusive in the island. So we put in time to get the island's opinion on key issues. The work in 2025 included the key elements were the planting beds and pots, where they took negotiations with North Ayrshire Council about improving the pots and planting beds, organised community planting and weeding of beds in the island, worked with the Scottish Women's Institute, who had been active in maintaining beds along the front. Gail from Pots and Pets took on the bed at Cardiff Street, and the FSC took on pots at Gamesway Beach. So I think people will recognise a lot of work put in by the community council and other groups within the across the island to improve that. Second, home council tax, which we'll come on to in a bit more detail um, later on the agenda, the discussion element. Solar farm, we are aware that a consultant has attended the island and discussions have begun. We'll ensure that the conditions set out in the planning consent are met. Overnight parking, which is an active element that will continue on into 2026. We continue to receive complaints from the community, so we produced a new report with evidence and raised the matter again through Councillor Collier to North Ayrshire Council. First meeting was held in October. The agreement with North Ayrshire Council consult with its legal team about options for enforcement in the bylaw. We've also begun work on a new approach in making people more aware of the damage they're doing by overnight parking, emphasising the fragility of the landscape. This will be in partnership with Field Studies Council and supported by the Cumbrae Forum. This project will be ongoing through the winter and involve community consultation. With Japanese knotweed, so we've took North Ayrshire Council and Scott Watson from the Carbon Neutral team around the island and showed them the stands we've been monitoring. Scott is now leading this issue. The majority of the knotweed was sprayed this year. Some stands were missed due to access. We'll continue to monitor this in 2026. Marina development, the Marina project is ongoing. That will be covered in the agenda. Collaboration. We hold monthly meetings for key groups in the island to report to communities. Regular external participants include elected members and Thomas Rainey from North Ayrshire Council, Head of Waste, Roads and Street Scene. We represent the island at the North Coast Locality Partnership meeting and Island Plan meetings. We can attend the ferry users group with residents' perspective, and we sit in meetings about Hunterston, Peel Ports, the flood defences, the marine and the carbon neutral project. Community Council membership. We'd like to thank those who have volunteered their time, contribute to Community Council over the last year. As of November 2025, the following team in place: Alex Harvey is the chair, John McHenry, Angus Campbell, Duncan Fraser, and two advisors, Gregor Harvey and Graham Willis. And new members in 2025, Robert Wilson and Carrie Lundy. And tragically, as people will know, Keith Hammond, our previous secretary, died during the year and is sorely missed. If anyone would like to join us or volunteer some time, we'd love to hear from you. Please email into Community Council. The priorities for 2026 at the moment, as the place plan finalises, key projects will come out of it. These are likely to include the focus on overnight parking, looking at probably 5-6 key areas: the pier, the helipad, the back of the island, within the town, working with North Ayrshire Council on a bylaw and this narrative to improve it. Aiming to get solar panels added to buildings in the conservation areas so we can get people's utility costs down, and supporting the the Cumbrae Forum and getting a study undertaken to look at the feasibility of elderly care services in the island. From a financial point of view for the AGM, finances, with two accounts, one had £1,100 at the start of the year, the other pound is £63 in it, so total of just and the only income we had in the previous year was £1,452 from the Common Good Fund in respect of a new notice board. The expenditure has been, the majority of it has been in the new notice board in the town, and then the rest of it is in admin and stamps, Zoom fees, poppy wreath, insurance, MailChimp, stationery. So current balance is £60 overall. So that's a quick whirlwind through the AGM. Has anyone got any points they'd like to raise in that? And the chairman's report will be published along with the minutes. Okay, we'll move on to the discussion topic, which Gregor was going to lead, looking at the Second Homes Council tax. So Gregor, I'll hand over to you for a few minutes to give that update.
Thank you. Just a very rapid history. I guess people know that we challenged the Second Home Council tax premium. That challenge was taken to a meeting of North Ayrshire Council's cabinet, who rejected our challenge, completely ignoring the legal position. I mean, clearly the way that the policy had been introduced and the way that its impact on Cumbrae had been assessed was not compliant with the Islands Act. I don't think there's any question about that. But the cabinet chose to ignore that fact and say it was fine, which was almost inevitable because it was them marking their own homework, basically. However, that decision was called in to the audit committee because three members, who I think at the time it was led by the Conservatives, felt that decision hadn't been made properly and wanted the audit committee to look at it again. So we prepared briefing for that audit committee, which included a survey that we did, which I think a lot of people took part in, which was the main aim of it. That was to find out how occupied the second homes are on the island, because North Ayrshire Council keep on quoting these figures that short-term lets are occupied for 140 days a year and second homes only have to be occupied for 25 days a year. But what they fail to mention is that 25 days is a minimum below which they consider to be unoccupied. And short-term lets only actually have to be let for 70 days a year. So we wanted to know how many days a year are second homes actually occupied, because we felt it seemed likely that the people that were spending a lot more time at them than North Ayrshire Council seemed to think. So we had about 150 people took part in that survey, and that found that on average, the second homes on the island are occupied for 138 days a year, which is almost exactly what North Ayrshire Council say short-term lets are probably let for. So whilst they've been presenting this position of it's better for the island to have properties as short-term lets than as second homes, the evidence actually doesn't support that at all. So we prepared a briefing document that did that, and it also went through some of the policies that the impact assessment could have looked at before this policy was brought in. So they could have looked at phasing in the introduction of the policy with some reviews along the way to see whether it was having a negative impact. They could have brought in a graduated premium so it affected smaller properties less. They could have ring-fenced the income that was generated so that it was used to support Cumbrae directly. So maybe supporting refurbishment of properties, or maybe helping out people on lower incomes, or helping out people who were working in some sort of community support, community service role. So there's a whole range of things that they ought to have considered that they didn't. And we put that all together in a briefing note, which we will put on the website so people can read it. So we were then a bit shocked that that meeting didn't go ahead. So from what we were told, the councillors that called in the decision to the audit committee were for some reason all unavailable to attend that meeting. And that meeting couldn't be rescheduled for some reason. And so the calling was withdrawn and the decision was ratified, and the impact assessment was accepted. So the decision of Cabinet was just accepted. So that was a bit shocking. Where that leaves us is difficult. There's no further right to appeal on this. So our options really are to try and push for the central government to do something. But being as it's an SNP policy and it's an SNP central government, it seems unlikely that they're going to do anything about it, even though they've clearly not complied with the law. We could launch a press strategy, make some noise, but I'm not sure again what that would achieve. Or there is the legal option, which is to call for a judicial review of the decision. So to get a judge to look at the decision and see whether they think it was made lawfully or not. So the risk of a judicial review is that if you lose, you can be liable for the costs of the other party. And as you just heard, we've got £60 in the bank. So that's not something that we're in a position to do, really. So, sorry, I've got people in the waiting room I've just been ignoring. I'll just let them in. Yeah, so that's the position, really. The question is what do we do next? Is there some way we can call for a judicial review that doesn't leave us personally liable to massive expenses? Is there some way that we can get legal advice on this? Do people have comments or thoughts about this process, what's happened, and what we can do next?
So does anyone want to come in and involved in a conversation with Gregor to support or bring opinions to the table?
I don't know if any of the councillors have any views on what has happened and how it's happened, and whether there's anything else that we can do.
Can I speak then, Viv?
Yeah, carry on.
So is that okay, Angus? Yeah.
Yeah.
First of all, can I just clarify a point? See Gregor, the figure of 140 days you're quoting, that figure relates to when a short-term let should then be declared as a business and liable for non-domestic rates. The property should be available for 140 days and let for 70, in which case it then should come out of council tax. So I'm not sure how that figure relates, but just to say, it just seemed quite a coincidence that it's the same figure. In terms of what happened with the call-in, I'm on the Audit and Scrutiny Committee, and it was a special meeting that was scheduled following the call-in, and then it was cancelled. So that's really all I knew about that. So I don't know if Todd has any further insights. Take my hand out.
Todd, would you like to come in?
Yeah, thanks, Angus. Can I just ask a quick question, Gregor? Who did you send the briefing note to in the first instance?
Oh, sorry.
Who did you send? You said you prepared a briefing note. Who did that go to, that briefing note?
Yeah, so we sent that to Councillor Inglis.
Well, there's your first problem. I've never seen any briefing note from the Community Council. I've never had any contact from the Community Council about the second home council tax. I never got any call from Councillor Inglis about this. Councillor Inglis was also on the Audit and Scrutiny Committee and involved in the creation of the call-in document, and had to then declare an interest and withdraw himself from that discussion. This was always meant to be, in terms of the call-in process, the way I've always run it over 8 years. Councillor Marshall might disagree on this, and I certainly don't want to make this a political point, but the call-in's always been based on whoever calls it in generally speaks on it, and that's the way I've always run any call-ins that I've been involved in. If I create the call-in, I then go and speak on it myself. So the reason that I decided not to go forward with it is that I was never supposed to be part of the call-in process. And quite frankly, I think it was because the Conservatives didn't have the numbers for the call-in process. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been included anyway. I've been very upfront about the amount of times I've spoken about second home council tax. The fact that it was delayed for a year was thanks to myself and Councillor Billings, who organised to have the island impact assessments, which delayed it by a year. Otherwise, it would have been in the 24-25 budgets, as was the kind of wishes of the council. Then I spoke against it when it was brought in to say that we shouldn't accept the second home council tax for a range of reasons that you probably all agree with. The decision is coming back to council in 12 months, so early in the new year. What that be about? March, May, just after the budget. And we'll have a discussion then in terms of debating the impacts on the island. And that's an opportunity for all the councillors to get involved and have a look at this. I've also spoken to officers in the past about some of the suggestions that you have raised about ring fencing money that's raised on Cumbrae to be spent in Cumbrae. So all of this is going on. But in terms of the specific call-in, I had never intended to speak on that. And then when I had a conversation with Councillor Stalker, who was the person that submitted it, he said he wasn't speaking. He said that Councillor Gallagher wasn't speaking either. And that's why it was decided to withdraw the call-in at that stage.
Yeah, so I find that really baffling, to be honest. I mean, to put your name, 3 councillors to put their names on something to get a decision called in what was coordinated by the Conservatives,
Well,
and then for nobody to talk about it, nobody to be prepared to talk.
For a second, Greg.
Very, very odd. I mean, you can see it from the community's perspective, where we were asked. This wasn't something that we instigated. This was something that we were told was happening, and we offered support. So for then it to not happen and nobody to communicate with us at all was totally baffling.
Okay, that's fine. Can I come back on that for a second? Because I'll go back to the original point I made, is that you prepared a briefing note which you gave to Councillor Ingalls, which Councillor Ingalls never discussed with me at any stage of this process. I was never involved in any of the conversations around what had been prepared for the call-in at all. I was asked because the Conservatives didn't have the full numbers, because you need 3 councillors to call anything in, because they've got Councillor Marshall and Councillor Ingalls sit on the Audit and Scrutiny Committee. They're technically not allowed to call things in that they're then going to be making a ruling on. So they didn't have the numbers. So the question should perhaps go to Councillor Marshall to speak to his group leader, Councillor Ingalls, about why he never shared the briefing note with me if he wanted me to speak on it.
I'm not sure that you need a briefing. Did you told you've spoken about this before, as you said? Why would you need briefing?
Explain the point, Gregor, about the fact that I was never intending to speak on it. I'd expected the Conservatives who brought the motion to speak on, brought the call-in to speak on the call-in. We can agree or disagree on that, but that was my view on it.
I think so. Maybe just come on to Tom Marshall, and then we'll pick up any other points. Tom?
Yeah, sorry, my video is not working, so I just need to be in a blank screen. I sit in the audit committee, and I couldn't call it in because you're not allowed then to debate it. It's very unfortunate this has happened. There's been miscommunication, but at the end of the day, it's almost certain that the audit committee would not agree with the call-in notice, because right across the council, and it is quite political, that all the groups in the council, bar the Conservatives, support this idea of a second homes charge. So I've said to you before that the only way to challenge this is to go for a judicial review. But I wonder if before that you've actually talked to Kenneth Gibson, who is the MSP for the area, and it's his party that's been promoting this that would be my first protocol. But I think we're on I think we're all on a hidey to nothing, because right across Scotland, all the authorities have gone for the second home charge. There are ways to mitigate it, and I've said that to other people. All you need to do is to have let your house for 70 days in a year, and that allows you to escape the second home charge and to have it registered as what they call a short-term let. And the 70 days can be just with one person. So if you let it for, say, 70 days over the summer, then you can escape the second home charge as long as it's available for 140 days in the whole year. I don't think there's any way forward apart from either a judicial review or talk to Kenneth Gibson.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Has anyone got any other points they want to raise in terms of the points that Alex Gregor was talking? Keep calling you Alex, please. It says on the screen, Alex. Sorry, Gregor. So, any of the other points that Gregor made, anyone want to come in to have a discussion?
Can I just say again that at the cabinet meeting, which I was at, and sat behind Gregor at it, and the cabinet did say, as Todd had said, that it will be reconsidered. So it will come back. When Tom says, obviously, he's got his view on what will happen, but it will come back to the full council or the cabinet to be discussed. So it's not, the council haven't completely dismissed it. They said they would review it. So that will happen.
Thank you. Any other points anyone else wants to come in on? I think Tom, you slid your hand up. I take it that's from previously.
Angus, I've got a message from Lorraine. Can you let people in? I think there's some people in the waiting room trying to get in the forum.
I think everybody's in.
Lorraine says she's still waiting to be let in.
I'm in.
Oh, you're in. You're in. Good. All right. Cheers.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Okay, Gregor, anything else? Or any other points, any other questions you want people to think about?
I think, you know, there's two questions. One is about the premium itself and whether that is a good idea or what can be done about the impacts. But the one about the review was simply that the law has not been complied with. And the fact that North Ayrshire Council are ignoring that is a bit shocking. So yeah, we'll have to try and get some legal advice about what the risks are of getting a judicial review. And I know that it's going to go back to council in May, I think it is. But we can only expect that the same people will make the same decision. So we won't hold our breaths.
Okay, Graham, do you want to come in?
Yeah, I was just wondering if it is to go to review in May and they're going to consider future actions on it, then what is the basis of the review? What's going to be included in the review process? What are they going to be looking at in the review? I think it'd be quite important if that was discussed beforehand or they had some knowledge of it.
Yeah, I mean, we can ask. From what I understand, they're going to be looking at what the impact has been on properties, whether properties being changed short-term lets, whether there's lots of properties on the market, how they're going to know some of these things. I'm not quite sure, but it's a good point. Maybe we should ask in advance for a clear, so we know where the goalposts are now, so we're clear about precisely what it is they're reviewing.
Okay. Anyone else want to come in to do the second homes? Okay, then we'll move on. So in terms of quick updates, is there anyone from the police? Nope. Coast Guard, John?
Yeah, so we were asked for an update on the sunken fishing vessel off Cumbrae. As per minutes, there's an investigation by the Marine Accident Investigation Branch to the preliminary assessment stage. That means that they are getting further details to decide whether to investigate further. There's a notice to mariners still in effect, and as the location falls within the Clyde Ports jurisdiction, any discussion about whether to raise it is now a private matter between the owner and Peel Ports. We were also asked if we had any posters which we could add to the notice board. We do indeed. So I've asked Alex how and where they can be best displayed. In terms of updates, we want to return to the topic of public parking on the pier, the risk posed by the unprotected edge and the fact that it restricts access when there's more than a couple of vehicles at the bottleneck on the pier. The existing signage from North Ayrshire Council says, and I quote, authorised vehicles only on the masonry pier, but as always, it's a question of enforcement. So we asked back in June, North Ayrshire Council to see what could be done, highlighting the problem, giving examples. We requested improved signage and suggested a lockable traffic bollard, but both were declined. They asked to be informed if it continues to be a problem, but of course, by the time it is a problem next time around, it'll be likely too late to do anything practical about it. It's not because we don't want visitors, it's just unsafe. So we need to clarify the legal situation about who has the power to move people on, who owns which section of the pier, before individuals and groups do exactly as they did this year, turn up in cars, caravans and motorhomes and use the pier as a car park and or a campsite, and without anybody making any attempt to move them on. So we'd like to see that progressed. I'm sure at the forefront of everyone's mind, the tragic incident just offshore from the island on the 15th of November. So an individual was reported as missing and overdue and was sadly located deceased later that evening. In terms of activities this month, we visited Age Concern on the 18th of November to give a presentation. So we were very warmly received, and thank you to the group for that. We also were delighted to win the public vote to win a sandwich platter from Garrison House Cafe. So we'll be tucking into that with gusto a week on Sunday at our regular training session. And then finally, with regards to island infrastructure, we'll have an eye on the rebuild of the ferry slipway and what's happening around the water to make sure everyone remains safe for the duration of the works. That's my updates. Back to you, Angus, unless anyone has any questions.
Okay, thanks, John. Okay, next update, the Cumbrae Tourist Association.
Yeah, I've received a very late entry from Scott Ferris, who's just back from his holidays. He says that it's basically an update for the Yuletide weekend, Friday the 5th of December. Santa will leave from Mapes of Millport at 5:40. Millport Pipe Band will lead the way, arriving at the garrison to switch on the lights for 6 p.m. Sonoro will be singing some carols before and after the switch on, and the local shops are encouraged to open late to welcome all after lights are switched on. On Saturday the 6th, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz is panto in the town hall at 3 p.m. It's free of charge and snacks will be provided. All children must be supervised by an adult. That includes you, Gregor, if you would take over. Craft fair. The craft fair is in the Garrison House as well from between 12 and 4 p.m. And then on Sunday, the 7th of December, 12 o'clock till 5, Santa's Grotto at Mapes at Mapes of Millport, and treats for the kids and mulled wine for the adults. So there's a wee weekend for you. And also, they're looking for help to put the decorations up on Sunday, this Sunday from 12 p.m, if anybody's available. That's all from my opta.
Excuse me, Angus, could I ask a question to John? I can't find the hand icon on my Zoom screen. Would that be okay?
Yeah, okay, go ahead, Callum.
Sorry, John, to drag you back into matters. I seem to recall this was mentioned at the last meeting as well a wee bit. Was there not a problem in the summer, because it appeared quite a lot on social media about people camping at the helicopter site, and I just wondered, has that ever got resolved? I know you mentioned about access to the pier earlier. Has anything been resolved in that, and how better can this be maybe promoted? I'm hoping through a bit of publicity through the paper, obviously, to make people aware that they shouldn't be putting a tent or campsite there. But is there a broader solution?
I think our particular interest in that is in the odd occasion when the Coast Guard helicopter needs to use the pad. I mean, the location itself, the pad itself, is owned by Scottish Ambulance Service, but obviously we have a vested interest in people not camping there, because as is obvious, when it's needed, it's at very short notice. It was a problem in the summer. There was some fairly clear photographs that were circulated. The conclusion that we came to was it needs to be passed to the police. If people see camping at or around the helipad, marquees, tents, barbecues on the concrete, it needs to go to 101, and then there'll be a response from the local police on the island. That's how it was left. We'll see how that works out when the weather picks up next year, I suppose.
Is that appropriate signage? Is that a possible solution to try and maybe, I mean, to try and stop it from happening next year?
I don't know how others feel, but I think that the signage doesn't appear to make a great deal of difference. I mean, I think partially the language of the signage, in terms of no camping, which is fairly clear, infers that you can't put a tent up, which is fine. The message there is clear, but I think people would perhaps plead ignorance and say, oh well, we're not camping, we're just having a barbecue, which is kind of beside the point almost. But Todd, I see your hand up. Perhaps you got something to add in there.
Yeah, just on that, Callum, it's a persistent and ongoing problem. I've raised signage in the past. The signage, as John says, is apparently appropriate. The police are always notified. I did a walkthrough with the chief inspector prior to last summer, maybe the year before, I can't remember, but it raises its head all the time. Unfortunately, it's just one of these things. People see a nice big flat piece of grass and big flat piece of concrete and decide, oh, there's a good spot, and don't think much out of it. But as John said, the solution is just to continually call the 101 and try and get the police and raise awareness, as we always do through the summer period, about responsible camping on the island. So maybe we could do a story around that this year as well.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, moving on in terms of agenda, Cumbrae Community Development Company, CCDC, Jan Wilkie sent her apologies today. She's not available and there isn't a report available this month. Cumbrae Forum, Lorraine?
Hi, yes, I'm sorry for my lateness, but I was having technical problems here with the laptop. So anyway, our charity shop continues to do as well as ever, and thanks to everyone for either purchasing items from that or donating, because without you we wouldn't have a shop to run, and we're very, very grateful for that. We held a Sunday lunch 2 weeks ago for our lunch club members, and there were 60 people attended, and a lovely afternoon was had by all. I understand they had Arctic roll and pears for a dessert. So that went down a storm. Our Christmas lunch club for lunch club members is being held on the 17th of December in the Newton as usual, but there's still a substantial waiting list for our to join our lunch club at the moment. Our memberships for 2026 are continuing to come in, so if you wish to become a member, it will cost you £5, and now's the time to get your membership forms from the charity shop. We're also getting ready to distribute our Christmas vouchers, so all our members receive £20 of vouchers to be spent in local shops and businesses. Tickets are now on sale for our Christmas raffle, for our hamper, and for a lovely homemade Christmas cake, and the tickets can be bought from the charity shop for £1 per ticket. We're in the process of purchasing and packing the items for our Christmas bags for all playgroup, nursery and primary school pupils, which are 53 in total. This year they'll each be getting pyjamas, a jumper, chocolate Santa, and some lovely different colouring pencils. Also, the 43 Cumbrae pupils that attend Largs Academy will receive £20 Amazon vouchers. So once again, I would just like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and thank you for your continued support to our charity. If I could just jump in quickly to Eleanor here. That speed advisory sign is swung round again. It has been fixed twice, so I think it's probably loose And I think it's the wind that's maybe turning it round. So I noticed
I'll report it again, not a problem.
okay. Thanks. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Thanks, Lorraine.
Okay.
Next updates, Millport Motors. I know there's a report from them. Millport Golf Club. Is there anyone on from Millport Golf Club in terms of any updates? No. Cumbrae Primary School. Anyone from Cumbrae Primary? Not seen. Obvious. Field Studies Council.
Yep, I'm here. Things are starting to quieten down at the centre after a very busy year. We've only had 9 schools visiting this month and 1 university. Schools from Bearsden, Dunblane, Dalry, Kilmarnock, Uddingston and Kemney, to name a few, and the 1 uni group was from Edge Hill in Lancaster. The paintbrushes and rollers are out for a couple of months, freshening up the centre for our first primary school group arriving on the 19th of January. The RV Actinia was lifted out of the water at Largs last week for our annual overhaul. We've already managed to paint the antifouling, taking advantage of the 2 days of nice weather we've had. So that's been a good start. Our new seawater system is now up and running throughout the centre. It's a fully automatic system, pumping fresh flowing seawater to every classroom from our new 30,000 litre storage tanks. Also this Saturday, the centre will be hosting the St Andrews Night Dance with the multi-talented Steve Donegan, and they'll be performing in the Allen Building. We will also be hosting the annual Cumbrae Burns Club dinner at the end of January. That's all from the FSC. Any questions?
Okay, thanks, Duncan.
Cheers.
So, fair users group update. So, summer timetable 2026. We've asked for identical timetable from 2025 in terms of capacity and frequency. However, as people are probably aware, Calmac are proposing to put some maintenance windows into both vessels on the route in the summertime. We support Calmac improving their maintenance. However, we're objecting to the fact that they want to take the ferry out for either 6 hours a week or 1 full 24-hour outage per month during the summer timetable. We feel that any additional maintenance could be effectively scheduled overnight, as each vessel lies idle for 240 hours a month. So a few hours to do overnight maintenance should be easily possible, given that their maintenance base is half an hour up the road in Greenock. So we've issued media briefings in October to highlight our concerns and written to politicians of all parties to lobby them to challenge this decision in Holyrood. This issue remains live and unresolved. We're continuing to push Calmac not to implement their threat to bring these maintenance windows in summer 2026. They've gone very quiet, but they say they're still looking at options, and I'm saying, well, if you can't come up with a credible option, then don't do it. And if you can't justify it, don't do it. Rebuild the Cumbrae Slipway. We welcome the changes made by CMAL to their plans to make the new terminal building enclosed and heated space rather than open to the weather as it was previously. Thanks to the councillors and Kenneth Gibson MSP for supporting this improvement. We do remain concerned that the lack of a breakwater in the overall design won't necessarily improve the reliability of the service in weather like this today. CMAL's contractor George Leslie started their site establishment works to construct their site compound. The main construction work of the slipway won't start till January. They do plan a public drop-in to brief the community on the detailed project plans for the sort of year's worth of construction work to rebuild the slipway. So Thursday the 11th of December from 2 till 7. So we'll get some posters put up from them for that. Contingency planning for this winter. We requested Calmac maintain a crewed spared vessel for the Clyde to improve contingency arrangements, but they've refused to do that. So it does risk stranding passengers in the event of a breakdown, they can't mobilise their boat fast enough because they've got to man up a boat that's lying spare. So that's continuing a concern in terms of the contingency of the island. Ticketing improvements, no real light in terms of making the ticketing improvements any better. They'd say they're going to redo the ticketing system, particularly Turn Up and Go, which this route is in 2027. So for the next year, the ticketing offering online and over the counter will not change in any way. And Loch Shear's annual maintenance is scheduled for Monday, 19th of January to the 6th of February, and the Loch Fyne will be operating the service during that period. So that's the update from Ferry Committee. Okay.
Angus, can I,
Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah, sure.
could
Sure.
I ask that we put some pressure on CalMac to prioritise foot passengers when the smaller ferries are on? Apparently, it's at the discretion of the crew, but actually, it's deeply unpleasant when foot passengers have to stand there waiting, in the wind and the rain for the cars to be loaded and unloaded. And I do think that actually people standing, waiting out in the cold and wet should be allowed to get on before a car. I might be the only person who thinks that, but probably not.
No, we have raised that previously, Carol, so we'll raise it again. I mean, in the Loch Shear, they can load and unload at the same time, but the smaller vessels have got to load passengers separately. But we did ask that previously, so we'll revisit that for you. Thank you. Any other questions on ferries? Okay. Okay, going on to Key Island projects. Place plan, Gregor?
Yeah, nothing to say really. I think all of the items that we're progressing on the place plan have been picked up on other agenda items. So next year we'll maybe try and give a bit more of a structured overview of what is happening, but it's all being picked up elsewhere.
Okay, thanks, Gregor. Carbon neutral islands. Scott Watson. Scott's not able to attend tonight, but he's given quite a comprehensive update, which I'll try and skim through. So, Millport rooftop solar PV, funding for 30 household installations, approximately £300,000 worth of work was secured earlier in the year. They're running slightly behind schedule and will be unable to complete any installs until January 26 at the earliest, but is moving forward. Hope to have all that completed by the end of March, and that would increase the capacity of solar and Cumbrae rooftop solar to 0.6 of a megawatts, which is about 40% of the island's average peak demand. Scott's got a visit by a company exploring some technical options and sites that would be capable of siting a project such as a solar car park. It's just an exploratory exercise at this time. There are no proposals or any specific sites at the moment, but hoping to get some findings of whether it's possible by the end of the year. Millport Heat Network, the project on Cumbrae, looking at a community heat network focused primarily around the Millport Conservation Area. It appears technically feasible, but it isn't without significant challenges, not least where they would site a central energy centre capable of heating up to 600 properties. As a result of this work, we've requested further funding to progress and look at a decentralised system that can be built in phases at individual blocks. Work is due to start on that prior to the end of the year. So obviously these are sort of quite significant projects, and Scott plans to hold some community meetings in January. But if people want to drop in, chat with him in the West Lodge, he's quite happy to host anyone at any time. Fuel poverty. The North Ayrshire Council's local heat and energy efficiency strategy has highlighted Millport as the highest risk of fuel poverty anywhere within North Ayrshire Council. and doing further work on how to improve that position. So that's the update from Scott. Town Hall's the next one. I've got a note from Angie about that. So the open day on Saturday, the 1st of November, was well attended. People were delighted to see the transformation in Millport Town Hall. There's a volunteer team that hosts the reception desk at the Town Hall now, and work is ongoing to improve the offer that can be made to the community. And please note thanks to Cumbrae Community Council for their ongoing work. This is the note from Angie, so thanks for that. Marina, Graham, someone else to talk, supposed to be.
Thanks, Angus. I'll just mention the ferry's going off. I've just had a text through it. So, Gregor, it probably wasn't wasted.
It's not in the Harbert Larg, so it's obviously halfway across. It's just going out.
Doing 2 runs and then giving up. Yes, I don't really have anything to report at the moment, except we have managed to arrange a meeting with North Ayrshire Council and their appointed design team, and we've managed to arrange that for the 2nd of December, and it will give us a chance to hear what the team have been doing in terms of data review, wave modelling, site investigations, etc., what their findings are to date, and hopefully what they're going to do next. So the local working group will meet with them on the 2nd, as I said, and that will comprise the Community Council, Community Development Company, FSC rep, other boating interests on the island, including the boatyard. I'm not sure, John, whether you want to be involved in that. I should have put you on the list, I guess. So hopefully at the next meeting we'll have something to report. That's my report.
That'd be quite interesting, if possible, please, Graham. Yeah, I think we'd be keen to learn as much as we can there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, moving on. The cathedral.
We are waiting for the Court of Sessions. The application's been submitted. We're expecting to hear in January. This is to the cathedral and its grounds are currently held under 1870 trust, and we can't move forward until it's moved to a new charitable vehicle, which is what we're waiting for from the Court of Session to give permission for that to happen. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Carol. Okay, moving on to issues arising, latest planning and licensing applications. Gregor.
Yep, this is another short one. So you might actually make Alex's deadline of 7 o'clock. You never know. One planning application, 3 Glasgow Street, which I think we all know is Pebbles, to be changed into a cafe. And that's it.
Okay, thanks. So North Ayrshire Council updates. There's a couple of things from Thomas Reaney came through. I think our previous discussions, the Community Council, the creation of an orchard and a grass open space opposite Ninian Street in Millport. The street scene investigate this suggestion, but there seem to be some land ownership issues, so we're going to come back to the Community Council to come further. Flood defence snagging been talked about. The main contractor has completed all snagging works and the maintenance period is now passed. There's some minor repairs at Crichton Street revetment where some concrete infill is required, and an alternative contractor will carry out this work. North Ayrshire also engaged a landscaping contractor to reinstate the grassed area along Kilburn Street, Glasgow Street, following the storms last winter, and engaged them to cut the grass for the 2025 growing season. He's still investigating what's happened to all the picnic benches that have never reappeared along the front, which seem to be scattered randomly around the island. So that's still with North Ayrshire. Melbourne Street flood defences, the temporary fencing works area is due to be completed as part of the Melbourne flood prevention scheme, which is to be awarded over the next few weeks. It's an outstanding action for that. And just talking about the Melbourne Street flood prevention, their tenders are currently being evaluated and contracts anticipated to be awarded in the next few weeks. Road improvement plans over this year. During the financial year 2025-26, resurfacing works were already taking place in Glasgow Street, Craig and Ross Road, Craig Street and our Circle. There's a resurfacing project for the B896 at the top of the island, which will take place early in the new financial year, but that's out of this year's budget. And pothole repairs, the area inspector undertakes regular inspections over the island 2 to 3 times a month, and there are work instructions issued for the B898 roads around the town of Millport. These have been requested to be prioritised and should be repaired in the next couple of weeks, weather dependent. So that's the update from Thomas Rainey, the North Ayrshire Council. So move on to councillors' updates. So start with Councillor Collier.
Hi, not much to add. We got, just to let everybody know, because I know you didn't get advised the last time it was raised, was that the official opening of the as yet unsnagged flood protection scheme is on Monday, February the 2nd at 10:30 to noon. I think the last it was arranged before then, it was postponed. Remember, and I think Community Council weren't aware. Just to let you know. Nothing much else apart from that. I was at the town hall opening and very impressed at the outcome there. Well done, everybody, and really a great asset for the community. And what a job! Amazing result. So thanks.
Okay, Councillor Ferguson.
Thanks, Angus. I'd asked for some inspections to take place on the pavements at Glasgow Street. So they've gone out and inspected them. They've acknowledged that there probably needs to be some improvements undertaken, but they will not be in this financial year. So we'll try and push them into next financial year's plan. Also, following Storm Eowyn, I raised concerns with the council about the fact that the fallen trees took a long time to be removed and sorted. So since then, the council have now got 2 employees based on the island who are now trained in chainsaw work, so that shouldn't be a problem moving forward because we've got people based on the island. The problem was that we were relying on people coming from the mainland, and that took priority during the last storm. There was blockages and drains at Kames Bay as well, which have been inspected and I believe fixed since that was reported. The flooding that you probably all noticed outside the FSC, that's been reported. It's going to take a wee bit more investigative work to try and resolve that problem. They think it's a hangover from when the flood defence work had the work site there. It's added to additional flooding at that section. There's other areas of flooding around the island. There's another spot on the back end of the island as well. And what it's also doing is it's starting to break up the road surface. So that's part of the road improvement works that Thomas was talking about in terms of pothole repairs. So they'll get to that. And then just finally, there was a visitor to the island. I believe the visitor comes fairly regularly, but they'd started building a cairn on Ballachmartin Bay, below the high water mark on the sand. So I spoke to Nature Scotland. The cairn, you probably see it if you go past, you'll see a small cairn on the beach. Nature Scotland are not going to remove it, but the resident was advised not to add to it further because of potential damage to the Triple SI. So just in case anyone sees that as well. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Marshall.
Thanks, Angus. Apologies, can't get my video to go, and I've really nothing to add to what the other 2 councillors have said. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I think that's all the councillors, I think. Okay, so next meeting will be Thursday, 29th of January, 2026. Zoom meeting will be issued nearer the time. Alex is going to and fro with how to organise a Zoom for that. Any other business? Robert, was there something to do with the resilience team that was wanting to be raised?
I think you received a message from Crawford Gillen regarding the situation. It's just the sort of pecking order for the resilience team are come under the control of the council and emergency services. They basically, I think it was stressing that we don't turn out if someone misses the ferry. Bottom line is, it's the people are well warned usually. If it's an unplanned, if it goes off unexpectedly, then there is a plan in place, and we would encourage people not to start setting up their own refuges and helping people.
Okay. Thanks, Robert. Okay. Anything else to raise under AOB? Okay. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining this meeting, and hope you have a good Christmas and New Year, since this is the last meeting before that. So enjoy the festive season when it comes. We're still in November at the moment, but I'm sure it'll creep up on us soon. So thank you very much, and we'll catch you later. Cheers. Bye.
Thanks, Angus.
Thanks,
Cheers, all.
Angus.
Bye.
2 minutes early.
Yeah, shopping.
Well done.